Oh my god, the devs did me dirty. I finished recording my preview video and then they dropped the patch details at the same time. So I'm sorry you guys are watching the preview when the patch notes are already out. I truly apologize. Okay, but anyway, a lot of crazy shit over here. Let's start off with Leora. This is amazing. Her kit is actually so good for new players, dude. I mean, she's also potentially really good for like endgame players as well, but let's just go through why I say this is the case. Okay, Leora, Athena, 5-star flow type Esper. Leora is a powerful fighter with the ability to assist the team. So she's kind of similar to Ashley in the sense that they are both DPS Espers that kind of benefit the rest of your team at the same time. So let's take a look at why this is the case. Ability 1, attacks one enemy, reduces their AP and inflicts fear. This ability also has a passive effect. At the start of combat, resets all Leora's ability cooldowns. Sounds good for knockout? You are exactly right, and she gets even better for knockout as well. Now, ability 2 grants all allies standoff. This is pretty good, and attacks one enemy. Now, before casting this ability, Leora gains or extends the War Goddess status. So if she does not have this, she will gain it, and I'll talk a little bit more about what this status is. Now, if Elaine or Nyx is on her team as well, and under the Night Goddess status, Leora's War Goddess duration plus 1 turn. After Ascension, each surviving ally grants extra damage. So the thing is, if you have more allies, which definitely works with the fact that you grant your allies standoff as well, you will deal more damage. Now, ability 3, Dislyte Beam, grants Leora invincibility and attack up. Now, dispels all buffs on one enemy and inflicts crit rate down, and you deal damage at the same time. So this crit rate down is going to be so good for like against Chronos, for example. So this in itself is really good for Chronos. Then inflicts crit rate down on all other enemies and deals damage as well. Now, before casting this ability, sorry, it's not all other enemies, it's all enemies. Now, before casting this ability, Leora gains or same as her second skill, gains or extends the War Goddess status. Now, if Elaine is on her team and under the Night Goddess status, Leora's War Goddess duration plus 1 turn. At the start of combat, if Elaine is an enemy at the start of combat, alright, Leora gains Dawn Glow. So I think this gold buff does not actually expire at all. I don't think it has a ticking time bomb or anything like that. It doesn't tick downwards, that's what I mean. Anyway, let's take a look at what War Goddess and Dawn Glow are. So these are two gold rim buffs, which means that they do not technically count as buffs. So they will not be part of like other skills that count buffs or something like that. They are just standalone effects. Okay, so War Goddess, when Leora's crit rate is equal to or higher than the target's, you'd amplify her damage as well. Now the thing is, do take note that using her second skill, you're actually going to reduce the enemy's... using her third skill, you're actually going to reduce the enemy's crit rate as well. So with War Goddess, you're most likely going to have amplified damage, right? Now, grants all allies a shield right before they take a critical hit. So Ashley, on the other hand, grants your allies AP whenever they take a critical hit. But this grants your allies shield, so using them together could be quite interesting. I'm not sure that is that going to be like meta moving forward, but I think this is pretty interesting, especially so for Chronos. This is going to be really good against Chronos. And then this is what Dawn Glow does, right? So how this happens is at the start of combat if Elaine is an enemy, basically. So increases crit damage, and Leora's attacks against Elaine won't miss. So essentially, if you're up against an Elaine, your crit damage is going to go up, so you're going to deal more damage. So she's kind of like a counter against Elaine. And of course, crit rate down is just simply minus the opponent's crit by 30%. But good news, this is no longer going to be an R2 Esper. This is an R4 Esper. Let's take a look at R2, right? New effect, Dislyte Beam, which is her third skill. Crit rate down inflicted by this skill cannot be resisted. Okay, right, sure. I mean, okay, yes, we do not need accuracy anymore, which is great. But this is not like essential, right? Because you can just have 100% crit and that's about it, right? That's all you need for War Goddess to be as effective as it should be. But take a look at her R4 burst. For every enemy killed, your crit damage increases effective in subsequent waves. So in knockout, okay, wait, hold on. I'm going to get to Chronos in just a bit. In knockout, if you take out the entire first squad and you move on to the second squad, not only will you reset all of your skills, it will also increase the damage that you deal because your crit damage goes up. And of course, now you're going to talk about Chronos as well. This is insane. She's going to be so powerful because you're going to kill so many enemies along the way. So your crit damage is just going to keep stacking. I'm not sure what the max is over here. I'm very curious to see whether how powerful she can be at R4. I'm not sure. Maybe some of you guys who managed to get her at R4, you can let me know, right? And then finally here, R6, which is okay. It's essentially after using Dislyte Beam, she will always be under the War Goddess status, which is kind of helpful so that you won't lose it when you're using your first skill, for example. But for the most part, she is definitely an R4 Esper. But I think if you're going to be thinking about using her in other content aside from Chronos and Knockout, You don't really need her to be R4, I don't think it's going to be that crucial. But because of her solid typing, she might also be really good in Fafnir just because she potentially has very strong hits. So yeah, this is something to take note of as well. Now next up, holy shit! I'm actually super excited that Elaine is free. She's a... Oh, wait, no. She's not a free R6, she's a free R0. Minimally free R0. I'm actually super excited that she's at least a little bit free as well. Because take a look at this, Elaine is a fighter with access to stealth and multi-stage attacks. So ability 1 attacks one enemy, inflicts sleep. All of her skills inflict sleep, by the way. Now while in stealth, you amplify damage that you deal. Now this ability also has a passive effect. Elaine's attacks will not interrupt sleep, which is really good. I mean, it's good in general, but definitely her kit is quite useful for Furbeter, and have a chance of ignoring some defense for enemies with sleep. And yes, I know you're going to correct me that you say Furbeter does not wake up, blah blah blah. Yes, I know that. So essentially, when she is in stealth attacking an enemy who is asleep, not only does she amplify her damage, but she can also ignore defense. Insane. Now, and this also does not just affect her first skill, I think it affects all of her skills. Now, ability 2 attacks one enemy multiple times and steals buffs. Inflicts attack down and sleep, and after ascension, for each debuff on the target enemy, you gain extra damage. This is so good against Fafnir, right? So you multiple hits and you steal multiple buffs. So she's going to increase a lot of crit damage in Fafnir in that sense. But of course her R4 effect, oh my god, I'll get to that. Ability 3, Elaine gains Night Goddess. And I have a suspicion that this lasts for 2 turns, I think. I think it lasts for at least 2 turns. Clears stealth on all enemies, and then attacks one enemy multiple times, inflicting sleep and buff blocker. Now, Night Goddess, so this is what Night Goddess is, right? So she gains it over here. Transfers all ally debuffs to the target when Elaine lands a critical hit. This is so crazy, dude. This is like Jin Yu Yao on steroids. And increases the miss rate for all enemies. I don't think this is a miss rate debuff. I think this is a standalone miss rate effect that she has when she has Night Goddess, which is quite insane. So if it's something like 15% miss rate, that is so powerful, especially when you use her along with Yun Chuan, for example. They both can stack a lot of miss rate in this case. Now, if Leora is on Elaine's team, Leora is basically Athena, right? If Leora is on Elaine's team and under the War Goddess status, Elaine's Night Goddess status duration plus 1 turn. And at the start of combat, if Leora is an enemy, pretty similar to what you've seen just now, Elaine then gains Dusk Glow. So this is what Night Goddess does. This is an undispellable gold rim buff that grants Elaine stealth for 1 turn at the end of her turn, which is why I think this should last at least 2 turns. If not, it doesn't really make sense for it to last 1 turn. Transfers 1 debuff from each ally to a target. Yeah, we talked about this, right? Triggers once per turn. Oh, it only transfers 1 debuff. Okay, so this is just basically just transfer 1. I misread this entirely. Transfers 1 debuff from all allies. And then increases miss rate for enemies. So this is a standalone miss rate debuff, I think. It's a standalone. It's not the same as your miss rate debuff. And Dusk Glow increases crit damage. Elaine's attacks against Leora cannot be resisted. Okay. Wait, cannot be resisted. Oh wow. It's not cannot be missed. Oh, it's different. This one says Leora's attacks will not miss against Elaine. This one is Elaine's attacks against Leora cannot be resisted. I see. So Leora will constantly be put to sleep. I think that's quite interesting. Anyway, R2 effect change Night Rate. Always has a chance of ignoring some defense when attacking. You're not limited to sleep, but the chance increases when attacking enemies with sleep. So I think the chance is probably going to be quite low at the start. And here's her R4. For every enemy killed, your crit damage increases effective in subsequent waves. She's gonna be the best Esper for Fafnir right now. Hands down the best. And then R6, right? Endless Night. She will always be under the Night Goddess status. Which I think this is actually a lot more impactful than Leora's R6 effect. Because I think this Night Goddess status actually carries a lot more because of the constant miss rate that the enemies have, and of course the transference of all your debuffs. And if your attacks against Leora cannot be resisted, then you're going to transfer a lot of debuffs to Leora in this case. Alright, now we move on to Camille, who is the free R6 Wind type Esper. Let's take a look. Okay, so Camille is definitely a lot more toned down than the first 2 Espers. I feel like the first 2 Espers definitely have a lot of potential. And I'm more excited about Elaine than Leora. I'm more excited about Nyx because of the miss rate up. I think this is actually quite game-changing in PvP as well. But let's talk a little bit more about Camille. So she's toned down because she's free. Take note of that. Okay, so Camille is a fighter who can deal significant damage by inflicting bleed. Camille's first ability, Claw Attack, attacks one enemy and extends their debuffs, which in her case should most likely going to be like bleeding effects and all that, mostly. Camille's second ability, right, Double Claws, attacks all enemies. I predicted this, right? She's going to attack all enemies, which is why she's going to be good for Sonic Rift in this case, and inflicts disease. Now, if the target is afflicted with bleed, you instantly trigger bleed for 1 turn. It pops bleed just like this. And after Ascension, upon successfully triggering bleed, further inflicts stun on the enemy. And if you're not sure what bleed does, it's just a percentage of your attack. I think it's about 10% of your attack, your total attack, not your damage, right? 10% of your attack in true damage. So this at least instantly pops all the bleeding effects that the enemies have, right? All of them. Now, Camille's third ability, Woven Smash, inflicts Sear and Bleed on all enemies first, then attacks all enemies while further inflicting bleed on enemies with Sear. So if your first hit successfully inflicts Sear on all the enemies, then you're going to inflict more bleeding stacks as well. Okay, so let's take a look at her resonances, right? Her skills are pretty straightforward. Okay, R2, Double Claws deals extra damage to enemies with bleed. That's about it. Extra damage is just a certain percentage of her attack. And R4, she has Perpetual Lifesteal, which is really good, so you don't need to build her on the Lifesteal set. And because she has a lot of AoE attacks, she's going to lifesteal a lot. She's just going to keep absorbing a lot of HP this way. Now her R6 effect, this is the part that makes her a little bit more interesting, and for the fact that she's free, this gets me very, very excited. And you know in what way. So new effect, Woven Smash, you gain an extra turn. So after inflicting AoE bleed on all enemies, potentially 2 bleeding stacks, right? You could just go straight into your second skill and instantly trigger all the bleeding. I think it's all the bleeding effect, but for just 1 turn. So if they have a lot of bleeding stacks, I think that all pops for like 1 tick of it, which I think is pretty interesting. This can potentially deal quite a lot of damage as well, I think. So yeah, that's it for Camille. I'm not super sure where she's going to be good for just yet, but of course we are going to explore a lot. You know I'm going to go crazy on exploring an R6 Camille. Okay, Uday, you guys, when the shop opens, please make sure that you get an R6 copy of Uday, because her base state is not like remarkable or anything. So let's take a look, right? So she is an offensive support basically, support the ability to attack and protect. And she is a 4-star Shimmer type who is also free. Ability 1 Star Bubble, attacks one enemy and inflicts speed down, and after Ascension you increase one random ally's AP. I don't really like the fact that this is random. This might be potentially a problem. Now ability 2 grants one ally Absorb and Shield, and ability 3 attacks all enemies, dispels all debuffs from each ally, instantly good for APEP, and grants them attack up. Now this is going to be very interesting. So just because of how her third ability works, it does make sense to run her a little bit slow, so that when some of your allies get the debuff from like the poison debuffs from APEP for example, she will then get rid of all of those and then grant them attack up afterwards, which might be useful because of her R6 effect. So let's take a look at her resonances. Now if there is an ability on cooldown, her speed increases, maybe about plus 15 usually. R4 Protective Shield, when granting a shield, shield strength increases. Meh. Take a look at this, R6, new effect, Serious Ward. Resets all ability cooldowns of the target. This ability will not work on herself, and the cooldown of Serious Ward is not affected by any ability. I think this is still possible with Ocean, or the Ocean set at least. So essentially what this means is you're going to start off, right, with your third skill, dispel all debuffs from each ally and grant them attack up, and afterwards, that ally who attacked APEP for example, right, you're going to instantly reset their cooldown on her second skill, or instantly reset their cooldown on her second skill. And of course on top of that you have Absorb and Shield and all that kind of good stuff. So I think this is probably what she's going to be good for, I think for APEP at least. But I'm really not sure. I'm really not sure where else I would find value in her just yet. But she does have some buffs, which is quite interesting. She might actually be good in Desolate Lands just because she grants like random allies AP. So if you're going to be building a team that focuses on granting a lot of AP, a lot of random turns, then yes, she might actually be very valuable there, especially when you give her the Avatara set. She's going to counter attack and then grant one of your allies extra AP. Not the same as Ankichai who grants himself AP, right? 25%. Alright, so that's it for the new ESPERS. I think I'm going to split this video into 2 because it takes so much time just to discuss all the new ESPERS itself, and I also need to do a lot of editing and all that. So yeah, I apologize, I'm going to have to separate this video into 2. I did not see this actually happening. But let me know your thoughts down in the comment section about these new ESPERS. What do you think about all their kits? What do you like and what do you dislike? And generally, what are your thoughts about the rest of the changes, which I will talk about in the next video itself. Anyway, that's it. I hope you guys enjoyed today's content. If you did, don't forget to give a thumbs up. It really helps the channel. And subscribe for more Dislyte content. Now with that said, this has been Derek Free to Play. And as always, I will see you in the next video.